What if your favorite ice cream isn't actually ice cream anymore? That creamy, dreamy frozen treat that's supposed to bring joy, that simple pleasure you grab after a long day or share with your kids on a hot summer evening, there's a problem. A big problem. And it's sitting right there in your freezer, melting into a watery mess while you're none the wiser. Here's something that'll blow your mind. Half the stuff in the freezer aisle isn't even legally ice cream anymore. I'm dead serious. The FDA, the people who are supposed to protect us from sketchy food products, they won't let these brands call their product ice cream. They have to dance around it with phrases like frozen dairy dessert instead. That's corporate speak for, we replaced real ingredients with chemicals and air, then slapped a pretty picture on the carton and hoped you wouldn't notice. Some brands have gotten so creative with cutting corners, so good at maximizing their profit margins while minimizing anything that resembles actual quality, that regulatory bodies literally won't let them use the word ice cream on their packaging. Think about that for a second. The product that's supposed to be ice cream can't be called ice cream. Today, I'm exposing 7 ice cream brands that belong in the trash, not your freezer. We're going deep on what's actually in these containers, what safety issues they've had, and why some of these companies are basically running a slow-motion health experiment on unsuspecting consumers. But I'm not going to leave you hanging. After we expose the problematic brands, I'll reveal the 2 brands that actually respect your taste buds, your wallet, and most importantly, your health. Let's dig in before everything melts. Hashon, Turkey Hill. The watery disappointment asterisk Turkey Hill occupies this weird middle ground in the ice cream world. It's not quite premium, not quite budget. Somehow, through what I can only describe as impressive incompetence, they've managed to deliver the worst qualities of both categories. The most common complaint about Turkey Hill? It's watery. Not slightly watery, not maybe I'm imagining things watery. Noticeably, obviously, undeniably watery. When you buy ice cream, you're expecting a rich, creamy mouthfeel that makes the treat special. That smooth, velvety texture that coats your tongue and melts slowly, releasing flavor as it goes. Turkey Hill gives you none of that. Instead, you get liquid. You get disappointment in a carton. Leave Turkey Hill on the counter for 5 minutes, not even that long, really, and it's turned into soup. Not soft ice cream, not even melted ice cream. Soup. It loses all structure, all texture, and tastes vaguely of its former self, like a ghost of what ice cream should be. The flavors are weak and timid, like they're afraid to commit to actually tasting like something. You'd think a flavor like chocolate peanut butter cup would be hard to mess up, right? Chocolate, peanut butter, little chocolate cups, it's a winning combination. Turkey Hill somehow makes it taste muted and distant, like you're experiencing it through a flavor-dampening force field. Birthday party flavor? Should be fun, festive, bursting with cake and frosting notes. Turkey Hill's version tastes like someone described birthday cake to them over a bad phone connection, and they did their best to recreate it using vague memories and cheap ingredients. But the real issue isn't just the weak flavors or the fact that it melts faster than your will to live. The texture is fundamentally wrong. Even when properly frozen, and we're talking straight from a well-functioning freezer, there's an icy, crystalline quality that shouldn't exist in proper ice cream. You can feel the ice crystals crunching between your teeth, little shards of ice interrupting what should be a smooth experience. It's like eating a popsicle, having an identity crisis. Real ice cream should be smooth and creamy, not crunchy and icy. That crystalline texture means either the formulation is off, the storage has been inconsistent, or both, and people are noticing. One frustrated Reddit user didn't mince words. Sue them and the store for deception. They are trying to pass this gross mixture of milk and corn syrup as ice cream. Harsh? Maybe. But when you pay for ice cream and get watery, icy, flavorless disappointment instead, that frustration is understandable. Turkey Hill has somehow created a product that fails at being ice cream on almost every measurable level. #2. Breyers. The mislabeling nightmare Breyers markets itself as the simple, wholesome choice. All natural ingredients. Straightforward recipes. The kind of ice cream your grandmother would approve of. They even make a big deal about their ingredient lists being short and pronounceable. Sounds great, right? Here's the problem. You can have the cleanest ingredient list in the world, but if you can't even put the right ice cream in the right container, we've got serious issues. June 2025. Breyers recalled approximately 6,600 containers of ice cream. The reason? They packaged Rocky Road, which contains almonds, into chocolate truffle containers. The label said chocolate truffle. The container said chocolate truffle. Inside, Rocky Road with almonds. For someone with a tree nut allergy, this isn't an inconvenience. This is potentially life-threatening. Anaphylactic shock doesn't care that it was a packaging error or a line fill problem. When you trust a label because your life literally depends on it, and that label is wrong, that's not a mistake, that's negligence. This is exactly the kind of thing that destroys trust. Because now, if you have food allergies, you can't trust that what's on the label matches what's in the container, even from a brand that built its reputation on being straightforward and trustworthy. And Breyers isn't alone in this. Just a few months later, in November 2025, Häagen-Dazs, the premium brand that charges premium prices, recalled certain dark chocolate mini bars for undeclared wheat, packaging error. Someone along the production line mixed up labels or batches or something, and now people with celiac disease or wheat allergies are at risk. These aren't theoretical problems. These are real recalls affecting real people. The FDA doesn't issue recalls for fun. They issue them because products on store shelves pose genuine health risks. But Breyers' problems go beyond mislabeling. Let's talk about what's actually in some of their products, or more accurately, what's not in them. Some Breyers products aren't labeled as ice cream at all. They're frozen dairy dessert. Why? Because they don't meet the FDA's minimum standards for ice cream. The FDA requires ice cream to have at least 10% milk, fat. Many Breyers products fall below that threshold because they've replaced cream with cheaper ingredients. They've added in more air, a process called overrun, to increase volume without increasing actual product. You're literally buying air at ice cream prices. They've swapped quality dairy for cheaper alternatives, used stabilizers and gums to simulate the texture that real cream would naturally provide, and marketed it as a simpler, more natural product. The cognitive dissonance is stunning. Natural ingredients in an unnatural product that can't legally be called ice cream. For people tracking macros, watching their fat intake, or just wanting a lower calorie option, that might seem like a good thing. Less fat means fewer calories, right? But you're not getting ice cream. You're getting a substitute that approximates ice cream while missing everything that makes ice cream actually satisfying. And when that substitute is potentially mislabeled, putting allergy sufferers at risk, that's when we cross from disappointing product into actually dangerous territory. 3. Magnum. The foreign object hazard Magnum bars are everywhere. Gas stations, grocery stores, convenience shops. They're impulse buys. Grab one while you're checking out. Enjoy that chocolate shell cracking as you bite through to the ice cream inside. Unilever, the parent company, has built Magnum into a global brand. But here's something that should make you think twice before grabbing that Magnum bar. In April 2024, Unilever recalled specific batches of Magnum almond ice cream sticks. The reason? Possible plastic and metal contamination. Read that again. Plastic and metal in your ice cream bar. This isn't about flavor or texture or whether the product technically qualifies as ice cream. This is about physical objects that don't belong in food ending up in food. Objects that can cause serious injury if you bite down on them, or worse, if you swallow them. Metal fragments can lacerate your mouth, throat, or digestive tract. Plastic pieces can cause choking or intestinal blockages. These aren't minor inconveniences. These are emergency room visits, potential surgeries, real medical complications, and the scary part? These recalls are usually issued after someone finds something. After someone bites into their ice cream bar and feels something hard and wrong, and spits it out and realizes they were seconds away from swallowing a piece of metal. The manufacturing process for these novelty bars is complex. You've got multiple components: the ice cream, the chocolate shell, the stick, the wrapper, multiple machines handling the product at different stages. And somewhere in that process, quality control failed so spectacularly that foreign objects made it through. Unilever is a massive multinational corporation with formal allergen labeling and supply chain controls. They have entire departments dedicated to quality assurance. They have protocols and checks and systems designed specifically to prevent things like this. And yet, it still happened. The recall was limited to specific batches. They identified which production runs were affected and pulled those products. But here's the uncomfortable question. How many other batches had similar problems that just didn't get caught? How many people bit into a Magnum bar, thought they felt something weird, and kept eating anyway? Foreign object contamination represents a catastrophic failure of manufacturing safety. It means the systems designed to catch these problems before products reach consumers failed. It means someone, somewhere along the production line, didn't notice or didn't care or didn't have the authority to stop the line when something went wrong. Magnum's not unique in this. Foreign object recalls happen across the food industry. But when you're dealing with frozen novelties that people eat quickly, often without looking closely, the risk multiplies. You're not scooping this into a bowl and examining it. You're unwrapping it and biting into it, trusting that what you're eating is safe. That trust, when broken, doesn't come back easily. Nestlé drumstick. The Listeria problem *** drumstick is a nostalgic treat for a lot of people. That cone filled with ice cream, topped with nuts and chocolate, with a little chocolate tip at the bottom. It's a summer staple, a convenience store classic, the thing you grab from the ice cream truck. Nestlé sells millions of these things globally. It's a high-volume operation with standardized processes and corporate quality assurance programs. They issue recalls publicly when problems arise. They have allergen labeling that clearly states the product contains milk, peanuts, and wheat. For most people, most of the time, a drumstick is exactly what it promises to be, a convenient, reasonably priced frozen treat. But in 2016, Nestlé recalled certain drumstick products. The reason? Listeria concerns. Specifically, they found Listeria in environmental samples from their production facility, on equipment surfaces. In the production environment, they didn't necessarily find Listeria in the finished products themselves, but the environmental contamination was enough to trigger a voluntary recall. Let me explain why this matters, because Listeria is not your average food safety concern. Listeria monocytogenes is a bacteria that can survive and even grow at refrigerator temperatures. Most foodborne bacteria can't do that. Cold slows them down or stops them. Listeria doesn't care. It keeps multiplying even when frozen or refrigerated. For healthy adults, Listeria usually causes flu-like symptoms, fever, muscle aches, nausea, diarrhea, unpleasant but manageable. But for pregnant women, the elderly, and people with compromised immune systems, Listeria can be catastrophic. In pregnant women, Listeria can cross the placental barrier and infect the fetus, causing miscarriage, stillbirth, premature delivery, or life-threatening infection in the newborn. In elderly people or those with weakened immune systems, it can cause meningitis, septicemia, and death. The mortality rate for invasive Listeria infections is around 20–30%. This isn't food poisoning that makes you feel miserable for a few days. This is a serious, potentially lethal pathogen, and Nestlé found it in their production environment. Now, to their credit, they caught it before it became a widespread outbreak. They issued the recall proactively. They didn't wait for people to get sick. But the fact that Listeria was present in a facility producing ready-to-eat frozen desserts should concern everyone. Ready-to-eat products don't get cooked before consumption. There's no kill step between the factory and your mouth. Whatever bacteria are present when the product is frozen stay present. They might not grow much while frozen, but they're there, dormant, waiting. If you're elderly, pregnant, or immunocompromised, this recall should have been a wake-up call. Frozen novelties, especially those produced in high-volume facilities with complex production lines, carry risks that other foods don't. And drumstick isn't unique. Listeria contamination has plagued the ice cream industry for years. Bluebell had a major outbreak in 2015 that killed 3 people and sickened several more. The company shut down completely for months, recalled everything, deep cleaned their facilities, and still face lawsuits and criminal charges. The ice cream production environment is challenging from a safety perspective. You've got moisture, you've got cool temperatures that Listeria loves, you've got equipment that's hard to clean thoroughly, and you've got products that won't be heated before consumption. Every ice cream manufacturer deals with these challenges. The question is how seriously they take them, how robust their environmental monitoring programs are, and how quickly they respond when problems are detected. Nestlé responded with a recall, but the contamination happened in the first place, which means somewhere, somehow, Their systems failed to prevent listeria from establishing itself in their production environment. For vulnerable populations, that's not a risk worth taking. 5. Halo Top. The airy thriddle experiment Halo Top burst onto the scene as the guilt-free ice cream. Low calorie, high protein, keto friendly. You could eat an entire pint and still hit your macros. Fitness influencers loved it. People trying to lose weight loved it. It became a phenomenon. The secret? Sugar alcohols. Specifically, erythritol, along with stevia for additional sweetness. These ingredients let Halo Top create a product that tastes sweet without the calorie load of regular sugar. For people tracking calories or managing blood sugar, this seems like a miracle. You get the ice cream experience without the caloric consequences. What's not to love? Well, here's where things get complicated. Emerging research from Cleveland Clinic and other institutions has raised concerns about erythritol. Studies have suggested that erythritol may increase platelet reactivity, basically making your blood more likely to clot. Higher platelet reactivity is associated with increased risk of thrombotic cardiovascular events, heart attacks, strokes, blood clots. The research is still evolving. It's not universally conclusive, but it's concerning enough that major medical institutions are calling for more study and suggesting people with cardiovascular risk factors be cautious about frequent, high-dose erythritol consumption. And Halo Top isn't using a little bit of erythritol as a minor ingredient. It's a primary sweetener in many of their flavors. You're getting substantial doses of this compound every time you eat a serving. And let's be honest, how many people actually stick to the serving size when they're eating Halo Top? The whole marketing pitch is that you can eat the whole pint. Beyond the cardiovascular concerns, sugar alcohols cause gastrointestinal distress in many people. Gas, bloating, cramping, diarrhea. If you've ever eaten a bunch of sugar-free candy and regretted it a few hours later, you know what I'm talking about. Sugar alcohols are not fully absorbed in the small intestine, so they pass through to the colon where bacteria ferment them, creating gas and drawing water into the intestines. For some people, even a single serving of Halo Top is enough to trigger digestive chaos. For others, it takes more. But the risk is real and well documented. Halo Top isn't hiding any of this. Their ingredient lists are clear. They declare their use of erythritol and other sugar alcohols. From a regulatory and transparency standpoint, they're doing everything right. But the question remains, should we be consuming significant amounts of these compounds? Are we trading one health concern, excess sugar and calories, for another potential cardiovascular effects and guaranteed digestive distress? For occasional consumption, Halo Top is probably fine for most people. The key word there is occasional. But the brand markets itself as an everyday indulgence, something you can eat freely without guilt. That marketing might be encouraging consumption patterns that aren't actually healthy. If you have cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, or other heart-related risk factors, you might want to stick with traditional ice cream in smaller portions rather than loading up on erythritol. If you have IBS or sensitive digestion, Halo Top is probably going to make your life miserable. The low-calorie ice cream category has exploded in recent years, with dozens of brands following Halo Top's model. Almost all of them rely heavily on sugar alcohols. Almost all of them carry the same risks. This isn't about Halo Top being uniquely problematic. It's about an entire product category built on ingredients that we're still learning about, ingredients that might have consequences we don't fully understand yet. You're essentially participating in a long-term experiment on the effects of regular sugar alcohol consumption. And unlike clinical trials, you don't get informed consent first, you just get marketing that makes it sound like the perfect solution. 6. Ben and Jerry's. The allergen roulette, Ben and Jerry's, has built its brand on being the fun, progressive, super premium ice cream. Chunky flavors, creative combinations, clever names, strong stances on social issues. They publish information about their quality assurance programs, their ethical sourcing, their supplier controls. They use pasteurized dairy bases. They list allergens on their website and packaging. For most consumers, most of the time, Ben & Jerry's delivers exactly what it promises. Premium ice cream with interesting flavors. But they've had recalls, labeling errors, packaging mix-ups, foreign object contamination concerns. In one incident, metal contamination fears triggered a recall. In another, mislabeled pint slices created an undeclared peanut risk. These events are uncommon, but they're real, and they pose serious risks to consumers with allergies. Here's the thing about food allergies. They're not like other dietary restrictions. If you're lactose intolerant and accidentally consume dairy, you're going to have an uncomfortable few hours. If you're allergic to peanuts and consume peanuts, you might die. Your throat swells shut, you can't breathe, and without immediate administration of epinephrine and emergency medical care, you're done. People with severe allergies don't have room for error. They can't take chances. They read every label, every time, even on products they've bought before, because formulations change, and mistakes happen. When a Ben & Jerry's pint says it doesn't contain peanuts, someone with a peanut allergy trusts that information with their life. When that information is wrong because of a labeling error or packaging mix-up, trust evaporates. And it's not just about the mistake itself, it's about what the mistake reveals about quality control processes. How did mislabeled products make it through multiple checkpoints? How did no one catch the error before products reached store shelves? Ben & Jerry's isn't a small operation churning ice cream in someone's garage. They're owned by Unilever, one of the largest consumer goods companies in the world. They have resources, systems, protocols, entire departments dedicated to ensuring product safety. And yet these errors still happen. The reality is that no food manufacturer is immune to mistakes. Production lines are complex, human error happens, systems occasionally fail. But when those failures involve undeclared allergens, the consequences can be lethal. If you have severe nut or peanut allergies, you need to be vigilant, even with brands like Ben & Jerry's that generally have good safety records. Check batch codes. Pay attention to recall notices. Don't assume that because you've eaten a flavor safely before, it's safe now. Formulations change, production lines get reconfigured, cross-contamination happens. The broader lesson here is that generally safe doesn't mean always safe. It means that most of the time, for most people, the product is fine. But if you're in a vulnerable population, if you have severe allergies, if you're immunocompromised, if you're pregnant, you can't rely on most of the time. You need to be more careful, more vigilant, more willing to skip the ice cream when there's any doubt. 7. Amul. The scale problem. Amul is India's largest dairy cooperative and one of the largest ice cream manufacturers in India. They emphasize ISO certifications, quality controls, vegetarian and halal ingredient sourcing. They have documented quality assurance programs and supplier testing. For millions of people across India and in export markets, Amul is the ice cream. It's affordable, widely available, and generally reliable. But scale creates challenges that smaller operations don't face. When you're producing ice cream in the volumes Amul produces, with the distribution networks they maintain, quality control becomes exponentially more complex. And occasionally, things slip through. In 2024, there were customer complaints about foreign matter in Amul products. One case involved alleged insect contamination. Amul responded by requesting the product be returned for investigation, which is the right protocol. But the incident highlights the challenges of maintaining consistent quality across massive production volumes. Social media has also been full of rumors about Amul's ingredients, particularly around emulsifiers. Some posts claim that E471, an emulsifier used in some Amul products, was animal-derived, contradicting Amul's vegetarian and halal claims. Fact-checkers investigated and found that Amul's E471 is plant-derived, but the rumors spread widely before being debunked. This isn't unique to Amul. Large-scale food manufacturers everywhere deal with occasional quality complaints and social media misinformation. But for consumers trying to make informed choices, it creates confusion and uncertainty. How do you know if a complaint is legitimate or if it's a one-off incident being blown out of proportion? How do you distinguish between real quality issues and social media panic? Amul's ISO 22000 certifications and quality management systems suggest they take food safety seriously. But certifications don't prevent every possible problem. They reduce risk, but they don't eliminate it. The reality is that when you're buying from any large-scale manufacturer, whether it's Amul in India, Nestlé globally, or Unilever in multiple markets, you're accepting a certain level of risk that comes with mass production. Most of the time, the systems work. Quality is maintained, safety standards are met, products are exactly what they're supposed to be, but occasionally something goes wrong. A batch gets contaminated, a label gets mixed up. Foreign matter enters the production line, and when you're producing millions of units, even a tiny percentage of defects affects thousands of consumers. For Indian consumers specifically, Amul represents one of the more reliable options in a market with variable quality standards. Their scale and regulatory oversight provide some assurance, but blind trust isn't warranted for any brand, regardless of size or reputation. We've just gone through 7 brands with 7 different types of problems: watery texture and ice crystals, allergen mislabeling, foreign object contamination, listeria in production facilities, questionable ingredient safety, labeling errors that risk lives, quality control challenges at scale. These aren't theoretical concerns or paranoid what-ifs. These are documented recalls, published research, and real incidents that affected real consumers. The common thread? Every single one of these brands failed to deliver on the basic promise of ice cream, a safe, quality product that tastes good and doesn't put your health at risk. Some failures are more serious than others. Weak flavor and watery texture won't kill you, they'll just disappoint you and waste your money. But undeclared allergens, foreign objects, and bacterial contamination can cause serious harm. And here's what really gets me. Most consumers have no idea. They see familiar brands, colorful packaging, and reasonable prices, and they assume everything is fine. They don't check recall notices. They don't read ingredient labels carefully. They don't know about production, facility contamination, or erythritol research, or the difference between ice cream and frozen dairy dessert. Why would they? We're supposed to be able to trust that the food on store shelves is safe. We're supposed to rely on regulatory agencies and corporate quality control to catch problems before they reach consumers. But as we've seen, that system is imperfect. Problems slip through. Mistakes happen. And when they do, consumers pay the price. So what do you do with this information? If you have food allergies, you need to be more vigilant than ever. Read labels every time, even for products you've bought before. Check recall lists regularly. When there's any doubt, skip it. Your life literally depends on trusting that labels are accurate. And as we've seen with Breyers and Ben & Jerry's, that trust can be misplaced. If you're pregnant, elderly, or immunocompromised, avoid soft-serve and hand-mixed ice cream during outbreak reports. Follow recall notices religiously, especially for listeria. Ready-to-eat frozen desserts carry risks that other foods don't because there's no cooking step to kill bacteria. If you have cardiovascular risk factors or sensitive digestion, think twice about sugar, alcohol, heavy, light ice creams. The calories you save might not be worth the potential health consequences. For everyone else, pay attention to what you're actually buying. Is it ice cream or frozen dairy dessert? What's in it? Has the brand had recent recalls? Are you comfortable with the ingredient list? And maybe, just maybe, we should all be eating less ice cream anyway. Not because it's inherently dangerous. Real ice cream, made with real ingredients by manufacturers who prioritize safety, is perfectly fine in moderation. But because the more we learn about what's actually in these products and how they're made, the less appetizing they become. The freezer aisle is full of disappointing, potentially dangerous products masquerading as ice cream. Now you know which ones to avoid. Your taste buds will thank you, your wallet will thank you, and most importantly, your health will thank you. All right, so we just dragged 7 ice cream brands through the mud. Watery texture, allergen mislabeling, foreign objects, listeria contamination, questionable ingredients. The freezer aisle is basically a minefield of disappointment and potential health hazards. But I promised you I wouldn't leave you hanging. I said I'd tell you which brands actually deserve your money and your trust. Because here's the thing, not all ice cream is garbage. Some companies actually care about making a quality product. Some manufacturers actually invest in safety systems that work. Some brands respect the fact that when you buy ice cream, you should get ice cream, not some chemistry experiment masquerading as a frozen dessert. Today, I'm breaking down 2 brands that get it right. Not perfect. Nothing's perfect. And we'll talk about where even these brands have stumbled, but significantly better than the disasters we just covered. Let's start with the farmer-owned cooperative that's been quietly making some of the best ice cream in America. Tillamook. The farmer-owned difference Tillamook isn't some massive multinational corporation answering to shareholders who only care about quarterly profits. It's a farmer-owned dairy cooperative based in Oregon. The farmers who supply the milk literally own the company. When Tillamook makes decisions about quality and safety, they're not just protecting a brand, they're protecting their own livelihoods and their neighbors' reputations. That structure matters more than you might think. Go grab a pint of Tillamook and read the ingredient list. You'll actually recognize what's in it. Real cream, real milk, real sugar, natural flavors. No artificial sweeteners pretending to be sugar, no synthetic colors, making mediocre ingredients look appealing. No high fructose corn syrup cutting costs at the expense of quality. They've published a list of ingredients they refuse to use. They call it their unacceptable ingredients list, and it's not some marketing gimmick, it's actual policy that guides their formulation decisions. When companies tell you what they won't put in their products, that's usually more meaningful than bragging about what they do include. The cream content is noticeably higher than budget brands. You can taste it. That rich, smooth texture that actually coats your tongue instead of immediately melting into watery nothing. That's what real cream does. That's what ice cream is supposed to feel like. And they're transparent about it. No hiding behind vague terms like frozen dairy dessert because they don't meet FDA standards for actual ice cream. Tillamook makes ice cream. Real, legal, FDA-compliant ice cream. Here's where Tillamook really separates itself from the brands we just eviscerated. They have an on-site microbiology lab, not outsourced testing, not sampling that gets sent somewhere else for analysis days later. An actual ISO 17025 accredited lab right there in their facility, testing their products before they leave. They run a 3-day testing scheme on finished products. They pull samples from cartons that are ready to ship and test for microbial indicators. They're specifically checking for the scary stuff, Listeria and Salmonella, the pathogens that can actually kill vulnerable people. Most manufacturers do some testing, sure, but Tillamook has made their testing protocols public. They've documented their processes. They use modern rapid test technology to catch contamination faster. They audit their suppliers rigorously to make sure problems don't enter their supply chain in the first place. This is the kind of quality control that should be standard across the industry but isn't. This is what it looks like when a company actually prioritizes safety over speed and cost cutting. And when something does go wrong, because nothing's foolproof, they respond appropriately. In May 2023, Tillamook issued a recall. About 1,440 family-sized cartons of waffle cone swirl ice cream had been mistakenly packaged in chocolate peanut butter containers. The problem? The waffle cone swirl contains wheat and soy. The chocolate peanut butter label didn't declare those allergens. For someone with a wheat or soy allergy, this is serious. They see chocolate peanut butter on the label, check the allergen warnings, don't see anything about wheat or soy, and assume they're safe. Then they eat ice cream that could trigger an allergic reaction. Tillamook caught it. They issued a voluntary recall in cooperation with the FDA. They identified which stores received the affected products, specific Safeway locations in Washington and parts of Idaho. They were transparent about what happened, what the risk was, and how consumers could identify affected cartons. Now, some of you might be thinking, wait, didn't you just spend time tearing apart brands for recalls? Why is Tillamook's recall suddenly okay? Here's the difference. Tillamook had a packaging line error, a specific, identifiable mistake that affected a limited number of products in a limited geographic area. They caught it, disclosed it, and fixed it. That's how recalls are supposed to work. Compare that to Breyer's packaging Rocky Road into chocolate truffle containers. Compare it to Haagen-Dazs's undeclared wheat problem. Compare it to Ben & Jerry's repeated labeling issues. The pattern matters. One recall from a packaging error? That's an unfortunate mistake handled properly. Multiple recalls for similar problems? That's a systemic failure. Tillamook's recall actually demonstrates their quality control is working. They detected a problem and took action before widespread harm occurred. That's what you want from a manufacturer. Most people eating Tillamook aren't thinking about microbiology labs or safety protocols. They just know it tastes good and has the texture ice cream should have. But some consumers on Reddit have complained. A few people noted texture issues, ice cream that seemed airier than it used to be, with less intense flavors. Some worried the recipe had changed or quality had declined. There's even one anecdotal report of someone finding a small metal piece in their tub, though that's unverified and could have happened anywhere in the supply chain. And Tillamook did reduce their carton size from 56 ounces to 48 ounces while keeping prices relatively stable. Some people see that as a quality reduction or a sneaky way to charge more per ounce. These complaints are worth noting. No brand is perfect. But compare the nature of these issues to what we saw with Turkey Hill's watery, icy mess, or the foreign object. Contamination in Magnum bars. We're talking about relatively minor quality variability versus fundamental product failures. For most consumers, most of the time, Tillamook delivers exactly what it promises. Rich, creamy ice cream with recognizable ingredients and strong safety systems behind it. If you don't have severe food allergies, Tillamook is one of the safest bets in the freezer aisle. The ingredient quality is high. The safety systems are robust and documented. The company structure incentivizes quality over pure profit maximization. If you do have severe allergies, particularly to wheat or soy, you need to be vigilant about checking lot codes and packaging, just like with any manufacturer. That recall proves that even good companies make mistakes. But overall, Tillamook represents what ice cream should be. It's not trying to cut corners or replace real ingredients with cheap substitutes. It's not gambling with safety to save a few cents per unit. It's just making quality ice cream the way ice cream is supposed to be made. Häagen-Dazs positioned itself as super premium from the beginning. The name sounds European and sophisticated, even though the company was founded in the Bronx. But the premium positioning isn't just marketing. It's backed up by actual ingredient quality and formulation choices that justify the higher price point. Pick up a pint of vanilla Häagen-Dazs. Read the ingredients: cream, skim milk, sugar, egg yolks, natural vanilla. That's it. 5 ingredients. All of them things you'd actually use if you were making ice cream at home. No guar gum, no cellulose gel, no mono and diglycerides, no carrageenan, no list of stabilizers and emulsifiers with chemical names you can't pronounce. This simplicity isn't just about clean labels or appealing to health-conscious consumers. It's about safety. Every additional ingredient is another potential source of contamination, another opportunity for allergen, cross-contact, another thing that can go wrong in manufacturing. Häagen-Dazs's core flavors have such short ingredient lists that there's less room for error. There are fewer vectors for problems to enter the product. It's a fundamentally safer approach to formulation. And because they're positioning as premium, they can't cut corners on ingredient quality. If you're charging premium prices, consumers expect premium ingredients. That market pressure keeps quality high in ways that don't exist for budget brands. Häagen-Dazs is now distributed globally under various corporate ownership structures. 7 in the U.S. It's under Dreyer's Grand Ice Cream, which is owned by Froneri, a joint venture between Nestlé and PAI Partners. The ownership complexity doesn't matter much to consumers, but what does matter is that they have access to mature, well-developed manufacturing and quality assurance systems. They operate under strict regulatory oversight in multiple markets. FDA regulations in the U.S., EU food safety standards in Europe, various national requirements in other markets. Meeting all these regulatory frameworks requires robust quality management systems. They must maintain proper pasteurization protocols, conduct pathogen testing, follow good manufacturing practices, maintain temperature controls throughout production and distribution. These aren't optional extras. They're requirements for selling ice cream in regulated markets. And because Häagen-Dazs is a high-visibility brand with a premium image to protect, failures would be enormously costly, not just in recall expenses, but in brand damage and lost customer trust. That creates strong incentives to maintain high standards. For people with food allergies, clear labeling isn't a convenience. It's a life or death necessity. Häagen-Dazs generally does this well. They declare major allergens clearly on packaging: milk, eggs, tree nuts when relevant. If a flavor contains wheat or soy, it's stated. This transparency helps consumers make informed choices. You can look at a pint, see exactly what allergens it contains, and decide whether it's safe for you. But here's where we need to talk about the problem that even premium brands face. In November 2025, Häagen-Dazs dark chocolate mini bars were recalled due to undeclared wheat. A labeling or packaging error meant that bars containing wheat weren't properly identified as containing wheat. For someone with celiac disease or a wheat allergy, this is dangerous. These aren't mild sensitivities or preferences. These are conditions where consuming the wrong ingredient causes real physical harm. The recall affected products distributed through dryers in multiple states. It was voluntary and proactive. The company detected the error and issued the recall before widespread problems occurred. That's responsible behavior. But it still happened. Despite all the quality systems, despite the regulatory oversight, despite the brand reputation at stake, someone somewhere in the production or packaging process made an error that put products with undeclared allergens on store shelves. This is the uncomfortable truth about food manufacturing at scale. Mistakes happen. Even premium brands with strong safety systems occasionally fail. Even companies with every incentive to get it right sometimes get it wrong. The question isn't whether a brand has ever had a recall. The question is how they respond when problems occur, and whether their problems are isolated incidents or patterns of systemic failure. Häagen-Dazs's recall response was appropriate and transparent, and their recall history doesn't show repeated similar incidents, which suggests this was an anomaly rather than a chronic problem. Let's be clear about something. Häagen-Dazs is not health food. It's ice cream, premium ice cream with high butterfat content and real sugar. A half-cup serving of vanilla Häagen-Dazs has about 270 calories, 18 grams of fat, 11 grams saturated, and 21 grams of sugar. That's more than many budget brands because Häagen-Dazs uses real cream and real sugar instead of cheaper substitutes. If you're eating ice cream regularly and in large portions, that's going to affect your health regardless of the brand. High saturated fat intake is associated with cardiovascular disease. Excess sugar consumption contributes to obesity, diabetes, and metabolic syndrome. Häagen-Dazs doesn't pretend otherwise. They're not marketing this as a health product or a guilt-free indulgence. It's ice cream. It's a treat. It's something you should enjoy occasionally and in reasonable portions, not something you eat by the pint every night while binge-watching Netflix. The advantage Häagen-Dazs has is that because the flavors are more intense and the texture is richer, you can actually feel satisfied with a smaller portion. You don't need to eat as much to get that ice cream satisfaction. Budget brands with weaker flavors and airier textures tempt you to keep eating because you're not getting the sensory experience you're craving. Where Häagen-Dazs gets more complicated from a safety standpoint is in flavors with mix-ins. Cookie dough pieces, brownie chunks, nuts, chocolate chips. These additions increase manufacturing complexity and create more opportunities for cross-contamination or mislabeling. When multiple ingredients are being combined on the same production line, you need extremely careful protocols to prevent allergen cross-contact. You need thorough cleaning between production runs. You need proper line changeover procedures. You need verification that the right mix-ins are going into the right flavors. Most of the time, these systems work, but the recent wheat recall proves they're not foolproof. If you have severe allergies and you're considering a Häagen-Dazs flavor with mix-ins, you need to be more cautious than with simple flavors. Check the specific allergen information for that exact product. Verify the batch code if there's been a recent recall. Don't assume that because you've eaten it safely before, it's safe now. Häagen-Dazs costs more than most other brands, significantly more in many cases. Is it worth it? From a pure safety perspective, you're paying for better ingredients, simpler formulations, and the quality control systems that come with being a premium brand. You're also paying for the brand reputation and marketing, but the underlying product quality is genuinely higher. From a taste and texture perspective, most people who try Häagen-Dazs alongside budget brands can immediately tell the difference. It's richer, creamier, more flavorful. Whether that difference is worth the extra money is a personal decision based on your budget and priorities. From a health perspective, the premium price might actually help with portion control. When ice cream costs more, you might be more mindful about how much you eat. You might treat it as an occasional indulgence rather than an everyday staple. That moderation is probably healthier, regardless of which brand you choose. Häagen-Dazs represents premium ice cream done mostly right. High-quality ingredients, simple formulations, strong manufacturing systems, and appropriate recall responses when problems occur. It's not perfect. The wheat recall proves that even established brands with mature quality systems can make dangerous mistakes. The high fat and sugar content mean it's not something you should eat carelessly or frequently. But for an occasional treat, When you want ice cream that actually tastes like ice cream and comes from a manufacturer with documented safety systems, Haagen-Dazs is a solid choice. If you have food allergies, pay attention to specific flavors and check for recalls. If you're health conscious, watch your portions. If you're budget constrained, save it for special occasions rather than everyday consumption. We've now covered 9 ice cream brands, 7 that have serious problems ranging from disappointing quality to genuine safety hazards. 2 that generally get it right, with some important caveats. The lesson here isn't that you should only ever buy Tillamook or Haagen-Dazs. The lesson is that you need to be informed about what you're buying and what risks you're accepting. Every food manufacturer can make mistakes. Every production system has failure points. Every brand, no matter how premium or well-intentioned, occasionally screws up. But some brands have better track records than others. Some companies invest more in quality and safety. Some formulations are inherently safer than others. Some business models create better incentives for maintaining standards. Tillamook and Haagen-Dazs aren't perfect, but they're significantly better than the alternatives we examined earlier. They use real ingredients. They maintain documented safety systems. They respond appropriately when problems occur. They're transparent about what goes into their products. That's what you should look for in any food product, not just ice cream. Real ingredients you recognize, companies that invest in safety, appropriate responses to recalls, transparency about formulation and sourcing. And remember, even the best ice cream is still ice cream. It's high in fat, high in sugar, and meant to be consumed occasionally as a treat, not as a dietary staple. The safest ice cream is the ice cream you eat in moderation while paying attention to what you're actually putting in your body. Now you know which brands deserve your money and which ones deserve to stay in the freezer aisle while you walk past. Choose wisely.